Delighted on this episode of Words, Images, and Worlds to be talking with author and professor, educator Johnny Saldaña. We have a few questions about arts that link in, so this is perfect. And I have to briefly tell the story of as a doc student sharing a study that utilized your book on coding and presenting that. And in the midst of the talk, you walked in. So it was one of those moments where the person I'm citing is up on the screen and in the room, and found you to be a very kind presence there. So greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. To start out, maybe a bit about your background in education. How did you get into this world of teaching and researching?
I knew since I was in first grade that I wanted to be a teacher. So my pathway and career trajectory followed that. I got a BFA in drama education with a minor in English education, and then a Master of Fine Arts in theater for youth. So my work in higher education focused primarily on teacher education and preparation for kindergarten through 12th grade. I directed plays for young audiences. I taught children all the way kindergarten through 12th grade as part of laboratory work and demonstrations. So I've been very fortunate to just immerse myself in something that I love and something that I knew I wanted to be from age 6.
Uh, I love that linking of creative expression with teaching and research and the arts, and the way that drama can inform research. So I'm curious about your ideas on that relationship of creative expression, drama, theater, and research. Are there links there?
There are definitely links. One of the things that I have written about is that artists are taught to think conceptually, metaphorically, and symbolically. And those three thinking approaches work their way into research, especially when we're analyzing data. We need to think abstractly. We need to think about the parallels between social action and how that interfaces with our documentation of our research, our findings, our conclusions. Because when it comes time to analyzing qualitative data in particular, we're working with symbol systems such as codes, categories, themes. And so what we're doing is trying to condense and find the essence of our findings into forms that help our readers grasp the magnitude of what it is that we've studied in the field. So there is definitely a connection. Now, there is also some connections in, for example, literary styles. I say that poetry and phenomenology share the exact same goals. Phenomenology is the study of lived experiences and trying to capture that through the essences and essentials of lived experiences. Well, that's exactly the purpose of a poem. And so when we work with poetic renderings, what we're also doing is research. We're trying to condense a very significant perception and insight about social life into a very elegant format. Same thing that we're doing with phenomenology, same thing that we might be doing with grounded theory. So, just as we have literary genres like drama, poetry, the short story, and all of that, we also have those same kinds of genres in qualitative inquiry, grounded theory, case study, phenomenology. So, there are wonderful parallels between the arts and literature and traditional forms of research.
Yeah, I love that relationship as well, and probably part of why I'm drawn to both phenomenology and poetry. That sort of like paring down of all that we see into something that carries through and that's essential.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, with that in mind, if I'm a researcher, if I'm someone who wants to go and uh, examine lived experiences, what is some of the most vital work that I can keep at the forefront? what can I keep in mind as a researcher?
I found that I have grown as a researcher by not restricting myself to one particular methodology or approach. There are
Hmm.
people who make a career and, quite good careers out of staying with one particular methodology, like some will specialize in autoethnography, some will specialize exclusively with grounded theory. And that's well and good. And certainly you become much more informed when you can put all your focus on one particular methodology. I myself, though, have been very lucky to have had the opportunity to explore multiple kinds of methodologies in my research studies, all the way from phenomenology, ethnography, case study, autoethnography, collecting data in various forms through written surveys, social media, interviews, participant observation. So I've been very fortunate, I guess, because of the studies that kind of fell into my lap. They needed certain types of approaches. And so I found that I myself have grown as a researcher by having experiences in a wide range of qualitative methodologies and even mixed methods and factor analysis. I kind of feel like I've done it all. And I think that that has really helped me as a research methodologist because when I am talking about how to do research, I feel so much better informed and being able to instruct others in all these different arrays and options possible for inquiry. So
Yeah.
I always advise people who are beginning in research, yes, do what you love, but try to get as much experience as you can in all the different approaches that we have available to us.
I love that. And I was fairly limited when I started doctoral studies and thinking about research. Had a very quantitative background, and I was amazed at the number of approaches that are possible and your knowledge of how to use methodology based on the type of study that is being pursued, I think is really essential. Thinking about coding, analysis. You recently published on developing theory in qualitative inquiry, so there are really lots of tools for people to use.
And I always, in my workshops, even though I'm approaching conventional kinds of approaches like coding, for example, or thematic analysis, I always make sure to acquaint my audiences with arts-based work. For
Mhm.
example, not just poetry, but also the rendering of diagrams in more artistic ways rather than the conventional, same size bins, for example. And I'm also talking about subjects such as ethnodrama, which is the dramatic adaptation of qualitative data, such as interview transcripts, because I want them to be aware that there are multiple forms of expression when it comes time to setting our findings about social inquiry. And people who have never had the opportunity to explore those particular modes are really quite surprised and inspired by them.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate the arts, and they definitely don't live in separate compartments from analysis and research and lived experiences by any means. All of that weaves together.
Right? Uh, Artists do a lot of research, not just in their heads, but also in conventional ways. A literature review, for example, is preparation for staging a dramatic production, especially if there's some type of historic, elements to it that we need to be better informed, directors, producers, and actors, once we have that research and knowledge base. Just anecdotally, when I did an ethnodramatic adaptation of Susan Finley and Macklin Finley's work with homeless youth in pre-Katrina New Orleans, uh, I did some field work in New Orleans myself. And I talked with homeless youth in that city just to become a better informed director. And my actors, when they were acknowledging that they were portraying homeless youth, they even themselves, of their own volition, went out and spent a night uh, outdoors with homeless youth so they could become better informed about what their lives are all about. So it was absolutely an amazing production because we immersed ourselves in the research needed to make the production as authentic as possible. And I think that's also the mark of good arts-based research is we do our homework.
Brings the authenticity through.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, so thinking about qualitative methods, how do these methods and methodologies enrich our understandings? What makes them so vital?
My mentor, Harry F. Walcott, said that our job is to make significant insight, discovery, and revelation. And that's what our primary goals are as qualitative researchers, is to, of course, bring new awareness to our readers and our audiences about things that we've observed in social life that no one has ever really put together before. They introduce us to significant subpopulations and subcultures. They give us new insights into things that we have kind of taken for granted. They find new ways of representing the documentation of social life. Those are primarily the goals of research, is to help us see things in new ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So currently, are there questions and experiences that are circling your mind or avenues of creative expression that you're exploring?
We can't get away from the new technology, AI, ChatGPT, Claude, all those types of platforms. They are emerging and are making quite a change in qualitative inquiry, in qualitative data analysis. We're still in the exploratory and experimental stages with these platforms, and the platforms still have some glitches to it. They're not perfect. And
Hmm.
so researchers are beginning to see how we can use these platforms for not just data analysis, but even data generation. You know, asking these platforms to take on roles like a research assistant or even a participant in a case study. So, in my own experiments with ChatGPT, I have been quite amazed at some of the outputs that it generates. It doesn't always get things right, and it doesn't always get things in a satisfactory way. But it is intriguing to see the kinds of comparisons when I do my analysis manually, and then I ask ChatGPT to do its analysis. I compare the two, and I see that sometimes there is some corroboration. Sometimes ChatGPT makes some insights or some analytic outputs that make me go, huh, I hadn't thought about that before. But then at
Hmm.
other times, I see the outputs that have been created, and I think I said it better. So it is a kind of a, people have put parallels like AI is a research assistant. It is a second opinion. It is a co-researcher. All these different types of roles. And notice the dramaturgy involved with this. We're asking AI to take on a role, a character. Um,
Hmm.
so that is probably what's going through my mind right now is how AI is shaping qualitative data analysis and qualitative inquiry. That's the big headline right now.
Interesting. Very interesting.
You asked some very intriguing questions, and I would encourage your listeners to also reflect and try to answer those tough questions that you posed.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that they worked well and certainly questions that circle my mind. And it's wonderful to share your voice here. Always glad to connect with you and hope to connect with you in person at a convention, research consortium soon.
Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate being asked to participate in this.